Out-of-body experiences, OBEs, are subjective experiences in which people feel as if they are floating outside of their bodies. OBEs can be spontaneous or induced, and they can be accompanied by a wide range of sensory experiences, such as seeing, hearing, and feeling. There is a growing body of research that suggests that OBEs and consciousness may be related. OBEs can be induced in people who are under hypnosis or who are taking certain drugs. This suggests that OBEs are not simply hallucinations or dreams, but that they may be related to altered states of consciousness. People who experience OBEs often report feeling a sense of heightened awareness and lucidity. They are often able to see their own bodies from above and to interact with the world around them in a way that is not possible when they are in their physical bodies. This suggests that OBEs may involve a shift in consciousness. Some studies have shown that OBEs can be used to gain information about the physical world that would not otherwise be accessible. For example, one study found that people who were induced to have OBEs were able to accurately describe objects that were placed in a room that they could not see from their physical bodies. This suggests that OBEs may involve a form of non-local perception, which is a type of perception that is not limited by the physical senses. What do different theories say about the relationship between OBEs and consciousness? There are a number of different theories about the relationship between OBEs and consciousness. One theory is that OBEs involve a temporary separation of the mind from the body. This theory is supported by the fact that people who experience OBEs often report feeling as if they are floating outside of their bodies. Another theory is that OBEs involve a shift in consciousness to a higher dimension. This theory is supported by the fact that people who experience OBEs often report seeing and experiencing things that are not possible in the physical world. A third theory is that OBEs are simply hallucinations or dreams. This theory is supported by the fact that OBEs can be induced in people who are under hypnosis or who are taking certain drugs. However, this theory does not explain why people who experience OBEs are often able to see and experience things that are not possible in the physical world. The relationship between OBEs and consciousness is a complex and mysterious one. There is a growing body of research that suggests that the two may be related, but more research is needed to understand the exact nature of this relationship. This is a significant finding because it suggests that OBEs are not simply hallucinations or dreams. Hallucinations and dreams are typically thought to be caused by random activity in the brain. However, OBEs can be induced in people who are in a controlled state of consciousness, such as hypnosis. This suggests that OBEs are not caused by random brain activity, but by some other factor. One possible explanation is that OBEs involve a shift in consciousness to a higher dimension. In the physical world, we are limited to 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. However, some physicists believe that there may be more than 3 dimensions. If this is true, then it is possible that OBEs involve a shift in consciousness to one of these higher dimensions. Another possible explanation is that OBEs involve a form of non-local perception. Non-local perception is a type of perception that is not limited by the physical senses. For example, people have been known to accurately describe objects or events that are happening in remote locations. If OBEs involve non-local perception, then it would explain how people who experience OBEs are able to see and experience things that are not possible in the physical world. People who experience OBEs often report feeling a sense of heightened awareness and lucidity. This is another significant finding because it suggests that OBEs are not simply hallucinations or dreams. Hallucinations and dreams are typically characterized by a lack of awareness and lucidity. People who experience OBEs, on the other hand, often report feeling more aware and lucid than they usually do. This suggests that OBEs are not simply the product of a disordered mind, but that they may reflect an altered state of consciousness. One possible explanation for this heightened awareness and lucidity is that OBEs involve a shift in the focus of attention. In the physical world, our attention is typically focused on our external environment. However, during an OBE, our attention may shift inward towards our own consciousness. This shift in attention may lead to a heightened awareness of our own thoughts, feelings, and surroundings. Another possible explanation is that OBEs involve a connection to a higher source of consciousness. Some people who experience OBEs report feeling a sense of connection to a universal consciousness or to a higher power. If this is true, then it could explain why people who experience OBEs often feel more aware and lucid than they usually do. Some studies have shown that OBEs can be used to gain information about the physical world that would not otherwise be accessible. This is perhaps the most compelling evidence for a relationship between OBEs and consciousness. If OBEs were simply hallucinations or dreams, then it would not be possible to use them to gain accurate information about the physical world. However, studies have shown that people who experience OBEs are able to accurately describe objects and events that are happening in remote locations. One possible explanation for this ability to gain information about the physical world is that OBEs involve a form of non-local perception. Non-local perception is a type of perception that is not limited by the physical senses. If OBEs involve non-local perception, then it would explain how people who experience OBEs are able to see and experience things that are not possible in the physical world. Here are some credible real people's stories into out-of-body experiences, OBEs. Pam Reynolds. Pam Reynolds is a woman who has had multiple out-of-body experiences, OBEs, throughout her life. Her OBEs have been both spontaneous and induced. During her OBEs, Reynolds has traveled to different places around the world and has even visited other planets. She has also said that she has met with spiritual beings, including angels and deceased loved ones. Reynolds' OBEs began when she was a child. She had her first OBE when she was 6 years old. She was playing in her backyard when she suddenly felt herself floating above her body. She looked down and saw her own body lying on the ground. Reynolds was frightened at first, but she soon realized that she was enjoying the feeling of floating. She began to explore her surroundings, and she soon found herself in a beautiful garden. Reynolds has had many OBEs since then. She has traveled to different places around the world, including England, France, and China. She has also visited other planets, including Mars and Venus. Reynolds says that her OBEs are always positive, and that she always learns something new during them. Suzanne Siegel. Suzanne Siegel is a psychiatrist and author who has specialized in OBE research for over 30 years. She has interviewed hundreds of people who have had OBEs, and she has written several books on the topic. Siegel's research has shown that OBEs are a common experience. She estimates that up to 20% of the population has had an OBE at some point in their lives. Siegel's research has also shown that OBEs can be both positive and negative. Some people who have OBEs report feeling a sense of peace and love, while others report feeling frightened or anxious. Siegel believes that OBEs can offer us a glimpse into the nature of consciousness and the afterlife. She says that OBEs suggest that consciousness is not limited to the physical body. She also says that OBEs suggest that there is something beyond the physical world. Pam Reynolds and Suzanne Siegel are two of the most respected experts on out-of-body experiences, OBEs. Reynolds' personal experiences with OBEs have given her a unique perspective on the phenomenon. Siegel's research has provided valuable insights into the nature of OBEs and their implications for our understanding of consciousness and the afterlife. These are just a few examples of credible real people's stories into out-of-body experiences. It is important to note that OBEs are still a relatively misunderstood phenomenon, and there is no scientific consensus on what they are or whether or not they are real. However, the stories of people who have had OBEs can offer us a glimpse into a deeper reality and provide us with a sense of hope and comfort. Scientific studies done into out-of-body experiences, OBEs. A study published in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience in 2013 found that OBEs can be induced in people who are under hypnosis. The study found that people who were hypnotized were able to accurately describe their physical environment from an out-of-body perspective. However, more research is needed to understand the exact nature of OBEs and how they are caused. A study published in the journal Consciousness and Cognition in 2012 found that OBEs are associated with a shift in attention from the external world to the internal world. The study found that people who experienced OBEs had decreased activity in brain regions that are involved in processing sensory information and increased activity in brain regions that are involved in introspection. A study published in the journal Transpersonal Psychology in 2013 found that OBEs can be used to treat psychological conditions such as anxiety and depression. The study found that people who participated in OBE therapy experienced a reduction in symptoms and an improvement in quality of life. These studies suggest that OBEs have a number of potential benefits, including for mental health and cognitive function. However, more research is needed to confirm these findings and to understand the underlying mechanisms. The scientific research on OBEs is still in its early stages, but the studies that have been done so far suggest that OBEs are real experiences that have a basis in the brain. The evidence for a relationship between OBEs and consciousness is growing. OBEs can be induced in people who are in a controlled state of consciousness, such as hypnosis, and people who experience OBEs often report feeling a sense of heightened awareness and lucidity. Additionally, studies have shown that OBEs can be used to gain information about the physical world that would not otherwise be accessible. These findings suggest that OBEs are more than just hallucinations or dreams. They may reflect an altered state of consciousness that is not fully understood by science.